Hello guys, Life Hackster here, and today is a bit different video and more of me sharing my experience installing a Eufy NVR system in a local business here in our town. Also, I'll give you all an update on the E40 and the E41 PoE cameras that I checked and tested out about a month or so ago. If you haven't seen that video yet, I will link it down below. But there were some issues on those cameras then that Eufy has been working to resolve them. And retesting them now, the notifications now are pretty reliable, just like any other Eufy cameras. And as to the spotlights, this took a bit of going back and forth with Eufy, but I have to unbind and reset up the camera from the NVR that finally fixed it. And now the spotlights are working, so everything is fixed. Anyways, a couple months ago, I was talking to a local business owner about his plans in changing and swapping out his existing DVR system at his store. You know, the analog system that uses coax cables, BNC connectors, and needing a separate 12-volt power supply for the cameras. And he also said that he has been using Eufy Wi-Fi cameras at his home. So he was asking me for advice on the brand. So the easy answer will be go with Eufy's NVR system, which they just recently released. This will also be a good test, a real-life full setup of their NVR system in a business setup, where there's a lot of motion traffic in daytime and should be pretty quiet at night. And after a few months, I'll ask him what are his thoughts and pain points if there is any on this system. And I'll make another kind of update video on that. Also, just a disclaimer, Eufy sent their 8-channel NVR with 8 E41 camera system for this video, so thank you. But this is not a sponsored video. They have no input or haven't previewed this. This is also not a review video, but just sharing my experience on installing and setting this up. And you might get an idea and learn a thing or two what to expect when wiring and setting up NVR cameras. Especially as most of you know, wiring and routing the wiring is the hardest part. I'm also going to link down below my video on the Eufy NVR if you want to know more about that system. First, let's unbox the Eufy system that we are going to use. This is the E41 8-channel and 8-camera kit. And inside, you will get 4 boxes. The first box, we have the NVR, and on the back, this is where we are going to plug in the cameras. And we have the HDMI cable, plug for this power supply, a short Ethernet cable, and a mouse. Next box, we have the cameras, 4 in a box. This is the turret type 1s, the E41s. Same thing on the other box. And the last box, we have the accessories. We have the mounts, and this kit comes with Ethernet cables, Cat5s, and they are 80 meters or 59 feet in length. So this is all that you're going to get with Eufy's 8-camera NVR kit. I really initially thought that this will be an easy swap out, switching from coax cables to Ethernet, which I assumed that I can just remove the old camera, unplug the BNC connectors and its power supply, and unscrew the old camera and tape the Ethernet cable to the old coax cable. And on the DVR side, where the coax cables are fished inside the wall, I was thinking that I can easily pull out the old cable all the way until I get the new Cat5 cable through. Well, I was wrong. And you know the reason why? More than likely, if you use cables that comes in a kit, you will have extra length than you need. And whoever installed this one was nice enough to have bundled up the extra wire, which means I will not be able to pull this cable through the wall. So I decided to cut the cables so I can tape the Ethernet cable on the side that goes down the wall. And what do you think happens? Yep, when it rains it pours. There goes the cable that I need. Anyways, learning from my mistake, I cut another one, making sure I get a hold of it. And now I can tape my Ethernet cable to it, and about a foot down, I have another run of Cat5 cable also taped. So I can pull one wire and get 2 runs out of it. And I did need help for someone to pull the cables from the wall. I also taped the other end of the Ethernet cable to the remaining coax cable running from the old camera, so that when I pull the coax cable from the camera side, I will now have pulled out all the old cable and replace it with the Ethernet one. And to install the cameras, I just need to take off the ceiling tile, drill a hole 3/4 of an inch to get the wires to go through. Install the mount, which instead of screws for the ceiling tile, I'll be using toggle bolts. And because they are pretty soft, I can screw in the bolts, and on the back side, I'll screw in the toggle nuts or the winged or anchor part of it, providing a secure mounting for the camera. Now I'll just feed the wiring through the hole and snap the camera to the mount. Plug in the Ethernet cable to the camera and replace the ceiling towel, which on this one needs a bit of finagling to get it back. And I need 4 more cameras to install. Now all the Ethernet cables are on the wall, so I'll just replace this recessed wall plate here and screw it back in. Lastly, with all the cables and cameras connected, which by the way I got all 8 Ethernet cables fished on the wall, but we are only using 5 for 5 cameras. And I'll tell you the reasoning here in a bit. Plug in for power, plug in the Ethernet cable from the router to be able to access the cameras remotely and in the Eufy app, and HDMI for the monitor, and lastly the mouse. And just follow the instructions on the monitor to set up the cameras and the NVR. To add the NVR to the Eufy app, click the plus sign, add device, NVR, and you will have an option to have it added to a new home or like business, but the owner just wants it added to his home. Make sure your phone is connected to the same network as the NVR and scan the QR code. And press the sync button on the back of the NVR, and it should be added. And you should be seeing the cameras on the monitor. Some final adjustments needed to position the cameras. Now we ended up setting up only 5 cameras, which is also the same number of cameras as his old setup. And the reasoning for this is that the owner wants to make sure the number of days he can get 4K recording continuously. The longer the better. And he can add the remaining or another 1 or 2 cameras eventually. With this 5 camera setup and with the wide angle lens of the Eufy, there are no blind spots and everything is covered. Now for privacy and security, I'm not going to show you the final setup and placement of the NVR, but this is what it looks like for the E41 turret cameras installed. And we have the monitor here, and we have a couple of more cameras here, here, and here. Lastly, I showed him a security feature of this camera that you can set especially at night for this setup to trigger the flashing red and blue lights and for the siren to go off when someone is detected. Anyways, overall, setting up the Eufy NVR and cameras are quick, plug and play, and the only thing that uses up a lot of my time is routing of the wiring. Anyways, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.